Can you imagine being a Zimbabwean in South Africa at the moment? Our government, the South African government, has said that your right to live here under the Zimbabwe Exemption Permit is now about to expire. Your own government, the Zimbabwean government, says that if you want to go home to Zimbabwe, you have to go into a government-administered quarantine. You have to pay for it. You have to pay for it in US dollars. It's not certain that you'll be able to get a new Zimbabwean passport, which also needs more US dollars. You're literally stuck between, I suppose, the rock of our government and the hard place of the Zimbabwean government. Nicole Fritz is the CEO of Freedom Under Law. She's been writing about this. Nicole, good afternoon to you. You suggest that we as South Africa are treating Zimbabweans as the rest of the world has treated us with travel bans. What do you mean by that?
Good afternoon, Stephen, and to all the viewers. I think South Africans are rightfully outraged at the knee-jerk response from much of the international community at the announcement, the detection and flagging by our scientists of the Omicron variant, immediately locking us out from the rest of the world and inflicting this enormous damage on our international tourism industry and related vital economic activity. And that is despite the fact that, we've had an announcement in recent days that in the Netherlands, they seem to have detected that variant several days before the announcement by the South African scientists. And so there seems to be this incredibly unfair, disproportionate response that has been meted out to South Africa and countries in Southern Africa. And our president has rightfully protested, has said that this is a repudiation of the recent signing of the G7 Carbis Bay communique, which happened in June, that it is contrary to science, and that it takes us back as a united international community in our response to the global pandemic. But I think we as South Africans appreciate that, some of this response is being seen, is being meted out to us because we are seen to be less powerful economically and in global political terms. And in fact that, the rest of the world is not particularly concerned for the misery and hardship that is inflicted on us. And my point in writing this week is to say we're right to protest, but if we do that, we must do that with moral authority, and we must show that we are much more circumspect in imposition of just such hardship and misery on others. And I think in this decision, as you've referred, this recent decision by Cabinet to end the Zimbabwe exemption permits, which avail around 180,000 Zimbabweans in South Africa, and which are part of a visa regime which has been ongoing now for over a decade, is just that type of disparate, arbitrary, irrational treatment that inflicts incredible misery and hardships on in this case, Zimbabwean persons who have lived here, built lives, livelihoods here in this country for over a decade, and have also contributed to the life of our country and to our economy.
What I haven't really seen, and there may have been interviews that I missed, is a proper explanation from Cabinet around why this decision's been taken now. And the now is important. The decision is one thing, but the timing is also important, because the permit was created during an economic, political and social crisis in Zimbabwe. I haven't seen any evidence that political, economic and social crisis in Zimbabwe has now eased.
Exactly, Stephen. And there hasn't been a reasoned explanation as to why this decision has been made. This idea that there is a 12-month grace period beginning at the end of December within which persons, Zimbabweans who are here in South Africa on this permit are going to have to migrate to other types of permits, or they must leave the country, or they will face deportation. The hardship here in South Africa of trying to do that, we know that even for those who are best placed to obtain another permit status, trying to engage with the Department of Home Affairs, even in the best of circumstances, but at a time of COVID, is nightmarish. It's a sort of Kafkaesque type dilemma. But for many thousands of those who are on the Zimbabwe exemption permit, there simply is no prospect of them earning any other status. So they will face the prospect of remaining here as undocumented persons, always at risk. And right, it creates incentive for persons then not to secure documentation here in South Africa, or to return to a country which, as you say, has shown no signs of easing of the political turmoil and economic devastation. And you just referred to the circumstances that those coming into Zimbabwe will face, having to face a quarantine and tests that will be extracted in US dollars. It is just absurd.
There is at least one legal challenge that I'm aware of that's being brought on behalf of Zimbabweans who are here living through the Zimbabwean Exemption Permit. Do you think they have a strong case? I mean, I can think of arguments for and against. I mean, I can think of arguments of why this decision may be legally irrational, but I can also think of arguments that may say Cabinet has to make a decision at some time to reverse the permit. How do you think it's going to turn out?
Well, I mean, like you, I am aware of that challenge. My sense is that they have a very strong case, that I can only imagine that challenge will prevail. The fact that decision has been made without even the barest attempt to provide reasoned explanation for it, and given the particular hardship that those who have benefited from a visa regime that has now existed for over a decade, I do think that the arbitrariness and the irrationality of that decision is very strongly underlined, and my money would be on the success of the challenge.
Thanks very much indeed. Nicole Fritz is the CEO of the organisation Freedom Under Law. Conversation we're bound to hear to see more of as those court cases resume.